I went out yesterday and got some footage of the canal breach near Dunham Massey on the Bridgewater Canal. So as I understand it, there was no injury or loss of life, but there's a lot of property damage, and now it's time for the cleanup. So who's going to foot the bill? So for those of you that don't know, this is the Bridgewater Canal, and it's no exaggeration to say that without it, you wouldn't be watching this video. Without the Bridgewater Canal, the Industrial Revolution wouldn't have happened. And I've been banging on about the Bridgewater Canal, well, since I moved here like 8 years ago. And it's one of my favorite places in all of the UK just to hang out. It's just a great place to hang out. And I really love the Bridgewater Canal. So there are plenty of videos on this channel about the Bridgewater Canal. As I said, it's one of my favorite places and it's very close by me here. So I end up hanging out there quite a bit. This is the Bridgewater Canal in happier times. It was a nice sunny day and there were canoes and kayaks and people out bicycling and all kinds of fun. It's a fantastic place, and it's also a great way to get around. You can use your bicycle on the towpath or walk the towpath, and you can get to places a little more easily and peacefully. But there is another thing that happens on the Bridgewater Canal. People live there. People live on their boats. And as a matter of fact, before we had children, that was our intention, to move here and live on a canal boat. But those plans fell apart. But anyway, people live on the canal. So people have lost their homes. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole history of the Bridgewater Canal, but some background is important for this story. There are plenty of videos on this channel about the Bridgewater Canal, and you can find links in the description to watch those. But the Bridgewater Canal was started by a man called Francis Edgerton in the 1760s, and he owned coal mines in Worsley, and he wanted a better way to get his coal from his mines in Worsley into Manchester. So he built the Bridgewater Canal. Well, not by himself, of course, obviously. There were a lot of people involved in building the Bridgewater Canal. But he wanted to get his coal into Manchester more efficiently. The price of coal was cut in half by the Bridgewater Canal. How does that make any sense? He lowered his price of coal. I guess he was selling a lot more coal and made it up in volume sales. If you want financial advice, it's wrong channel. So the Bridgewater Canal is old, very old, over 250 years old now. And not a lot has been done to it since. It's a testament to the work and design of the Bridgewater Canal. But the infrastructure is 250 years old. And it doesn't get the maintenance it requires. So a classic example of the routine maintenance that's not happening is this piece of machinery here. It's called a stop plank crane, and they played a crucial role in the breach that happened the other day. Bridgewater Canal is all one level. When you poke a hole in it, it all drains out. So these cranes lift these planks into slots in the canal so you can section it off and save the water on the other side of the stop planks. And it's a critical piece of machinery, and it just looks like a piece of old junk alongside the canal. It's tragic. This is a critical piece of equipment for the canal to operate. If these things don't work, the canal could have been drained completely. 40 miles of canal drained, a stinking tangled mess of mud, and it affects everybody. I mean, look at it. It hasn't been painted in 50 years. The planks are rotten. It hasn't seen a shot of grease in 20 years. This is an absolute travesty. They actually had a lot of trouble trying to get the stop planks into place. Stop planks were rotten and they had to cut bits off and force them in, and it's just not kept up to scratch. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is from a video about the Barton Swing Aqueduct we did a while ago. And I put it out on the 1st of January, which was the anniversary of the Barton Swing Aqueduct opening. And this is what a stop plank crane is supposed to look like. The Barton Swing Aqueduct does get routine maintenance, so a stop plank crane is supposed to look and operate like this. There have been breaches in the past. As a matter of fact, there was a breach in very much the same place in, I think it was 1971. And somebody sent me a photo of that breach, and I can't find it. But when I do, I will put that in the community tab. So keep your eye on the community tab. The Bridgewater Canal was the first true canal in Britain. There were canals before, but they followed the course of existing rivers. And the Bridgewater Canal was a purpose-built canal. And it's all on one level. There are no locks in the Bridgewater Canal. So it followed the contours of the land. If there was a dip, they would have to fill it in to get over the dip. And if there was a hill, they would have to cut through the hill to keep it level. So it's mounded up and dug down. The section that had the breach is a newer section, only by a few years, and that goes out to Runcorn and into the Mersey. And that was bringing goods, finished goods, out to the Mersey and off into the world, of course. So the Bridgewater Canal had a good 100-year run before the Manchester Ship Canal came along and kind of replaced it. But it lasted for a long time, bringing raw materials into Lancashire and Manchester, like corn. We did a video a while ago about the cornflakes plant in Stretford, and they would bring corn into Stretford and turn them into cornflakes. And that lasted right up until the 1960s, I believe. And of course, cotton. Cotton came into Manchester via the Bridgewater Canal. It was called Cottonopolis, after all. And there's an interesting video on here about the Abraham Lincoln statue in Manchester. When the Civil War in the States was going on, the cotton supply was cut off, and Lancashire was devastated by the cotton famine. And it's a sad story, but do check it out. It's there is a silver lining in the story, I guess. But yeah, cotton came in via the Bridgewater Canal. So the Bridgewater Canal was a crucial transport link for Manchester and the surrounding area. But of course, the invention of the shipping container, or sea can as we call them, the shipping container kind of put an end to the efficiency of canals, and things were brought across the ocean to major ports by massive shipping container ships, and then put on trucks to disperse throughout the country. And if you look at this section where the breach happened, you can see that it's built up. It's a built up section. They had to cross this, well, it's not really a valley, I guess, but this much lower land. So they had to mound up soil to get the canal across all on one level. And that could have been solved with a lock. They didn't quite have locks figured out yet. They weren't perfected. And the Bridgewater Canal is all one level. It's like nearly 40 miles long, and there are no locks. It's kind of a flaw in the Bridgewater Canal. Feature, flaw. And the amazing thing is that all of this dirt, all of this soil was moved by hand. It was all brought in one wheelbarrow at a time. Absolutely amazing. We're actually, I'm working on a story about the navies, the navigators. They're the guys that did the work, the the digging and the shoveling and the lifting and carrying, and built the canals and the railways too. But yeah, all of this soil was mounded up to follow the contours of the land, so they didn't have to use locks. But it's an amazing story, and keep your eye out for that one, the story of the navvies. But of course, today we do have machinery, and we can move soil around quite easily, and we have things like concrete and steel, and we can put this back so it will last a long, long time, maybe even 250 years. The section in Stretford is similarly built, and it's incredible when you think about how much soil was moved by hand. They didn't have machines. They had, a horse or an ox at best, a wagon, and it was a hard life. So the breach gives us a little insight into how the canal was built. We kind of have it in cross section here now. Just imagine how many carved stone blocks there are. Let's see, 39 miles out and back, both sides. Both sides have stone, 5 or 6 feet deep. All right, I give up. You do the math. But it's surprisingly not very deep, only about 4 feet near the edge and about 5 or 6 in the middle. You can see the water line on this boat. It only draws about a foot or so of water. But along the edge of the canal here, you can see the bottom. They used something called puddled clay. They would line the bottom with clay and drive cattle back and forth over it to tamp it down. And this section here where the breach happened, now I don't know if this is the 1760 construction or the 1971 repair, but it's all very loose sand or clay. It's not a very good base, and no doubt that's part of the reason for the failure. This mound of soil is kind of a weak point in the canal, and it's broken there before, and it just gets washed away, and we can fix that these days, and we have to fix that these days. Now it needs a big fix. And the last time this happened in 1971, it took 2 years to fix it. But that's the thing, the canal today is not a working canal. It no longer makes money. Somebody living on a canal boat, I don't mean to belittle these people, but they only pay like a couple £1,000 a year to be on the canal. Now, of course, it costs a lot more than that to live on a canal boat, but like your rent for your berth or your spot on the canal or your right to be on the canal it's only like a couple £1,000 a year. So you take all those boats and add it up, it's not a lot of money. So the company Peel does not make a lot of money from the Bridgewater Canal. They don't make any money from the Bridgewater Canal. It's really not a money maker. These guys are interested in land holdings. They want to own the land that comes with the Bridgewater Canal. And frankly, if it was drained and filled in, it would be worth much more to them. And that's not something any of us want to see happen. So one final note before we go. You've seen it now, so you don't need to go there and look at it. It's really not safe to be out there. This thing is still collapsing, and I stayed back as far as I could, and some of these people, this guy here is straddling that crack that's about to give way at any moment, and it's just not a safe place to be. So stay away and stay safe, and watch it on YouTube. And we shall see you in the next one.